Sometimes stuff happens with the signal from the studio to the tower, which sends our programming to your car, home, office, or your transistor radio. But when you download the KBLA 1580 app, the sound is clear as a bell. All day, all night, anywhere in the world. From Los Angeles to Lagos. So, we love all of our listeners, no matter how you hear us. But when you download the KBLA 1580 app and hear that richness, you'll wonder why you didn't do it sooner. But don't take my word for it. Download the KBLA 1580 app right now. I'm Tavis Smiley, and I approve this message.
I remember when I lost my mind. There was something so pleasant about that place. Even your emotions have an echo in so much space. And when you're out there without care, yeah, I was out of touch. But it wasn't because I didn't know enough. I just knew too much.
I'm Tavis Smiley. In this hour, as promised, a conversation about Donald Trump, who endlessly promises to stop crime, restore order, and jail criminals. But Donald Trump is surrounded by white-collar criminals who have been convicted of fraud, lying, conspiracy, and more. And that is, of course, to say nothing of his own criminal conduct. Robert Greenwald is our guest, joins us live in studio for the hour. He's the founder and president of Brave New Films. And I invited him in to talk about his latest documentary. It's called Trump's Crime Wave. Trump's Crime Wave. Take a listen.
My highest priority was to reduce crime.
This is a crime wave that never ends.
We're going to stop the crime. The crime is unbelievable.
It's an invasion of crime. We have to do something about this crime.
I hear the train a-coming. It's rolling around a bend.
We are confronting the wave of crime.
I don't know when. I'm stuck in Folsom Prison, and time keeps dragging on.
There's tremendous crime and corruption.
But that train...
Washington, as you know, has some very serious problems with crime.
A vast criminal enterprise.
When I was just a baby, my mama told me, son,
We have a crime wave.
always be a good boy. Don't
Make
ever
America
commit a
safe
crime.
again.
I'm stuck in Folsom Prison, and time keeps dragging.
These are terrible, horrible people who are responsible for crime.
When I hear that whistle blow,
Put them behind bars as quickly as possible.
This is a crime wave that never ends.
One of the most shocking scandals in American political history. This is the corruption we expect to see in a third world country, but not in the United States of America. What the hell is going on?
Crime is through the roof. We have to bring back law and order.
I bet there's rich folks eating from a fancy dining car. They're probably
Our government is for sale. The crime rate has gone through the roof.
Well, I know I had it coming. I know I can't be.
I am your president of law and order.
Underneath all the bravado is an elderly man who is genuinely facing the possibility of the same fate of so many of his associates. Time behind bars.
Roll my blues away.
I always get a kick out of watching artists watch or listen to their own work. So I'm listening to this trailer, but I'm watching Robert Greenwald and just sort of assessing his own reaction to what he was hearing. So you did the work, but what were you hearing just now?
I was hearing a brief part of Donald Trump's criminal crime conspiracy. Mm-hmm. And we've never had an elected official with this amount of crime, with the people he hired, with the people in his cabinet, with his staffers. It just goes on and on and on. And so I couldn't help but smile at the, not that it's funny, but the level of hypocrisy is quite extraordinary.
Yep. What do you make of the fact that one who has engaged in this level of hypocrisy has gotten this far yet again in our political process. I'm thinking of Muhammad Ali. I think I've told this story before. I once asked Ali why he felt he was so beloved, Robert, around the globe. And Ali, being my friend and being the jokester that he was, started cracking jokes and playing with me. I said, no, champ, I'm serious. Why is it that you think, after all these years, you were so beloved the globe over, the world over? He said, Tavis, I guess it's because I never lied to the American people. Like me or loathe me, love me or hate me, I am who I am. I've never lied to the American people. And here's what I want you to always remember. I said, what, champ? He said, my read is that the American people can handle anything except hypocrisy. I mean, we love a comeback story, right? We love rooting for the underdog. What Americans cannot handle is hypocrisy. And yet Donald Trump has made a cottage industry out of hypocrisy, with all due respect to my friend Muhammad Ali. What say you, Robert Greenwald?
Well, beyond the cottage industry, shall we say, a major, massive industrial complex of lying. I mean, in addition to the hypocrisy around crime and clearly the racial undertones or overtones, the racism built into his efforts to criminalize and name call, he constantly lies to the point where the press doesn't even know how to handle it. It's not one lie. It's not two lies. I mean, the number on his recent rants and raves, 30, 40, 50 lies in one outing. So it makes it more of a challenge, both for the press and for those of us who care about democracy, for those who care about equality, and for those who care about justice.
This documentary covers a lot of ground. We're going to get to some of it in this hour. And I already know that I want to ask Robert, and I will when we come forward, about what this says. And by this, I mean what Donald Trump has been able to do, as we are on the eve of another presidential debate, this time he and Kamala Harris, September the 10th. What all of this says about white male entitlement in America. It's not just criminal conduct, but I want to connect a bunch of dots here with Robert Greenwald. We'll do that when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
From Leimert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
Make a move into a home of your own. With City National Bank's Ladder Up Home Loan Grant, you could receive up to $20,000 that you never need to pay back. Use it toward your down payment, save on closing costs, or to buy down your mortgage rate. Find out more at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Property must be in a qualifying market in California, New York, or New Jersey. Additional terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Terms are subject to change without notice. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS number 536994.
For all of us, this generation and the next, there is simply no place in our lives for litter. And yet, it's everywhere we look. And unfortunately, it does belong to all of us. So, let's come together and create a litter-free, clean California, once and for all. Remember to properly dispose of your trash and recycling. Secure truckloads with tarps to keep debris from flying out. Clean out your car when you're at a gas station. Take pride in your community by organizing a cleanup event. Or join a cleanup event near you. Zero litter is the goal. Join us at cleanca.com. That's cleanca.com. Let's do it. Together. Brought to you by Caltrans. cleanca.com.
This is the story of the one. As a facility technician installing a new welding station, he knows getting the ventilation right is critical for safety. That's why when questions arise, there's Grainger. Grainger offers detailed technical product information online at his fingertips, so it's easy to find what he needs. Because when it comes to safety, having answers means he and his people can breathe a little easier. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
You've got a Pepto predicament, Beach Bum.
Hey, we're heading down to the beach. You coming?
Yeah, Dad. You coming?
I had a little too much to eat at the resort buffet. I need a minute. Oh, you overdid it. And now your beach vacation is giving you belly waves. Undo it with Pepto.
When you have nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, diarrhea.
Pepto Chewables provide fast 5-symptom relief so you can get back to making memories.
Let's go, Dad!
When you overdo it, undo it with Pepto. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Let's get back to Robert Greenwald, who's the founding president of Brave New Films. His new documentary is called Trump's Crime Wave. We'll get back to that conversation in just a second. I was just saying to Robert, when you're on the air during the time of day that I am, we're syndicated across the country, heard in different times, in different markets. But there's always breaking news, especially these days. Here's some more breaking news for you. This is the black judge, Tanya Chutkan. A federal judge declared today that she would not let former President Donald J. Trump's campaign for the White House affect the schedule of the criminal case in which he stands accused of plotting to overturn the 2020 election. At an hour-long hearing today, Judge Tanya S. Chutkan said the November election was simply not relevant. Those are her words. Not relevant to the timing of how Mr. Trump's case should unfold. I am definitely not getting drawn into an election dispute, she told Mr. Trump's lawyer. The hearing in federal district court in D.C. was held to discuss the next steps in the case, which have been put in limbo for months as Mr. Trump pursued a claim all the way to the Supreme Court that he was immune from prosecution on the charges brought against him by the special counsel Jack Smith. So here I am talking to Robert Greenwald about Trump's crime wave, and in the middle of that conversation comes breaking news that Judge Tanya Chutkan has said, I ain't trying to hear it. This election is not my business. I'm not going to allow it to interfere with this case. We will proceed. Robert Greenwald.
Thank you for arranging that breaking news, just so it come on while we were having this conversation.
Yes, sir.
Nice to hear the good news.
Yeah.
With Trump, there are so many horrific things, some of them almost humorous, some of them soul-wrenching. We released yesterday, as I was mentioning, a new video, Trump's Racism, less than 24 hours, 500,000 views, and it's continuing to grow and grow. And just to let everyone know or remind them, thanks to our wonderful funders, all of these films and videos are free, and they're meant to be used to do what you do, drive the conversation, as I see right in front of me, unapologetically progressive.
That's us.
And that's so critical and so important. So crime wave, racism, voter suppression, abortion, we have free films and videos on all those subjects.
His company's called Brave New Films. We'll tell you more about how you can go online and view, again, all this work. I've always celebrated Robert's work for the very reason he just mentioned, that it's all free. It's very rare to have somebody do the kind of the righteous work, the heavy lifting in documentary form that Robert is doing, and all the stuff ends up being free for people to use, to study, to have conversations around, dialogue about. It's some pretty amazing work, and so I always am anxious to talk to Robert about whatever his next project is. And you tackle, we'll get back to this piece in a second, but you tackle some pretty interesting stuff. I use the word interesting because what I'm really getting at is that you tackle the stuff that other folk don't want to deal with. Tell me about that part of your work and witness.
Thank you, and it brings a big smile to my face because my mother, who's no longer alive, used to say, couldn't you do something that would just cheer people up and then would have more laughs? She said it with half a smile on her face. I think that's so important what you said and identified, which is there are so many subjects that are not being talked about. There are connecting the dots that are not being done. And over again, what we try to do at Brave New Films is look at the system. When we did the Walmart film, it wasn't a question of one bad boss. It was greed built into a company on the anti-war work. Yes, I went to Pakistan, I went to Afghanistan, but it's not about the individual war, as horrible and as painful as they are. It's a system that keeps funding, that keeps building, and that keeps murdering people.
This is a broad question, but you can handle it and take it any way you want to take it. I'm asking it broadly, specifically and unapologetically, to that word you mentioned a moment ago, unapologetic. What have you learned? Just give me some takeaways. Take your time. Give me a few takeaways of what you have learned about the system over the course of your many years of doing this work, indicting the system. Talk to me about the system, Robert Greenwald.
The system, the way it all works or doesn't work, whose interest it serves, how it serves that interest, is by design not easy, not simple, but that's where And of course, I'm biased, but that's where film is unique. The other thing that I'll often talk about at Brave New Films, what do? We put a face on policy. There are people who do books. There are people who do wonderful radio shows. There are people who do white papers. Our job is finding those individuals and using them so that their face, their story, whether it's abortion or whether it's drones or whether it's the Koch brothers, their faces come through and allow everybody to feel and to be touched and to understand that is me. That's the universality. And to me, it's the thing that wakes me up in the middle of the night, that keeps my motor going, and that lets me know there's work to be done and continue to be done. And the extraordinary staff at Brave New Films who finds these people, who does the research, who edit the pieces, and help show in a very human way, this is how the system abuses, misuses, and serves the interests over and over again of a narrow segment.
Everybody has opined on Trump's criminal conduct. Some have excused it and ignored it, but everybody has opined on it in one way, shape, or form. So when it comes to this new documentary, Trump's Crime Wave, what is it about his criminal conduct, his misbehavior, his bad behavior, that convinced you and your team to put a spotlight, to do a treatise on this piece?
Well, it's exactly the excerpt you played, which is, here is somebody who's talking about crime. He's talking about it with overt racialization, with overt racist attacks, and yet he is surrounded with the worst kind of corrupt criminals who are abusing the system, who are self-enforcing it in a way so that they're making more money, breaking more laws, and doing what they want to do, not just here, all over the world. There was a story yesterday about his family getting control of key property in Albania. Of course, that had nothing to do with their presidential connections.
Yeah. I mentioned a moment ago that I wanted to come to this, and let's just get there now. This notion of white male entitlement. There's so many ways in which Donald Trump has been able to obfuscate, to skate, to slide, to escape, pick your word. If I had the time, I could run through this long list. You know where I'm going here. But it says something to me, not just about him, but it says something more broadly about white male entitlement in this country. If you're tracking with me, talk to me. What does it say to you? His crime wave that he's been able to get away with so far, at least. What's that say to you about white male entitlement in America? Since we were talking about the system earlier.
Well, I'll often look at a situation or an issue and say, is it Freud or is it Marx? So is it the psychology?
I like this.
Or is it the politics?
I like this.
And Trump is a toxic combination of both.
Yeah.
Right?
Freud and Marx. Yeah.
Exactly. Look at the way he was raised. Look at the money he was given. Look at the racism that began with his father teaching him how to screw over people who were people of color in their apartment buildings. On the Freud side, and on the Marx side, over and over again, he uses systemic issues to his own gain.
Yeah. What's your read of the way in which the corporate media, broadly speaking, there are examples here and there, but what's your sense of the way the corporate media, broadly speaking, shies away from putting this sort of spotlight on these issues? As you well know, you've been around as long as I have, a little bit longer, in fact.
A lot longer.
Not that much longer. But there's a way in which corporate media, again, sort of, if I can borrow from the Godfather James Brown, they sort of hit it and quit it. So they can't be accused of not covering it, but they don't sort of put a spotlight on it. It requires independent media. I'm thinking of you as a filmmaker. I'm thinking of my friend Amy Goodman and others. There are a few of us out here who are trying to do some heavy lifting, climbing up the rough side of the mountain, as it were. But what's your sense of why we need independent sources to focus like a laser on the subject matter that the corporate media oftentimes chooses to ignore.
Well,
does that make sense?
Total sense. And, if you believe in democracy, that line, democracy is not a spectator sport. It's more affirmation of the independent media, of you, Amy, the work we try to do, because it's very simple, Tavis. Follow the money. Corporate media, for the most part, is built on advertising, is built, therefore, on a financial model that will alienate nobody. Look at what's happened on social media, where Facebook literally is not letting you post political content of any kind because they think or they believe it hurts their financial bottom line. So with that case, we need as many alternatives as we can possibly get to tell the stories that are not being told, or as Amy says, to go where the darkness is. Or as Leonard Cohen says, there's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in.
There you go. I ran into that Facebook wall the other day. I didn't, but my team did. I have my new book is out, The Covenant with Black America, 20 years later. The book comes out 20 years ago, becomes an instant bestseller. Now here we are at the 20th anniversary edition of The Covenant with Black America. And the team was buying some Facebook and Instagram ads. And in the language, in the script, we used the phrase election season, during this election season. And Facebook smashed that thing. They would not. I'm like, it was not a political ad. It was an ad for the book. But the phrase during this election season got that thing shut down. So we had to re-edit. My team had to re-edit the thing, put it back out again. And thankfully, it went ahead on Facebook and Instagram. But I hear your point. They're scared of what it does to their bottom line. But just that phrase election season got me in trouble.
Yeah, they're very, very, it's ironic because they're always saying, well, we can't control things and it's people's decisions. But here, Facebook particularly, and we've dealt with it, Josh, who runs our social media, has over and over again been struck by the fact of how tight the control is. So we're building up all the platforms. The good news now is there are multiple platforms, and you can find the films, the videos, short clips, full-length clips on every single one of the platforms.
The truth is they control the things that they want to control.
Absolutely.
I'll leave that where it is. So this documentary, Trump's Crime Wave, really does sort of highlight a dozen top aides and their criminality. We don't have time to walk through all of them, but just give, and we played the clip at the top, but just give us a sense of the people around Donald Trump. In some ways, I shouldn't say in some ways, it is the case typically that that they will get the folk around the person, but never nail the person. We'll see if they nail the person. Judge Tanya Chutkan says this case is moving forward. The election ain't my issue. So we'll see if they ultimately nail the person. But it is always the case, or typically the case, where they get the folk around the guy, but they don't quite get the guy. So this documentary focuses on a lot of people around him. Give me some sense of who these people are, what we're talking about. You got a couple minutes here.
Well, he has surrounded himself with crooks, with financial abusers, with people who over and over again break the law, game the system for their own financial gain. Many of them are millionaires, multimillionaires, some billionaires, and you might ask the question, how much is enough? Don't they have enough money? And yet, clearly they don't. They keep going with these efforts that are sometimes breaking the law, and even worse sometimes when it's legal to do what they're doing. And we've seen it in this video. We've seen it, in the video we just released about Trump's racism. What his judges are doing to our country, the way they are affecting people. By the way, on the racism video, as one of my colleagues said, it's not just that he's name-calling, it's policies. It's policies that are affecting people's ability to work, minimum wage, getting loans, housing, all of those things, because he's put hundreds, not tens, hundreds of bad judges in place because it's essential carrying out of what's in a racist agenda.
I look at my clock here. Tell you where I want to go when we come forward. Let me just tee this up because it wouldn't be fair to give you 30 seconds to respond. But I'll tell you where I want to go when we come forward here in just a second. and again, I say this all the time, no naivete here, but I am always fascinated by the people who line up to be in his inner circle, even though everybody knows that he's toxic. Everybody knows, like that mythical, like that Greek mythological figure, you get too close to the sun, you burn. You get too close to this guy, you're going to get burned. He is just that toxic. Your documentary, Trump's Crime Wave, makes that abundantly clear by looking at these dozen people around him who have gotten into their own trouble. But so much of that is about being in this guy's orbit. And yet it doesn't stop people from lining up to be in his orbit. Starting with J.D. Vance and all the other folk we saw at the Republican National Convention, all these sycophants, all these apologists. There is no stopping. There is no shortage of people standing in line to be close to this guy who burns everything and everybody around him. It's like scorched earth, right? He burns everything around him, and yet people still want to be close to him. Let's talk about that part. Because you get too close to this guy, you don't just get burned, you end up in jail. Mr. Bannon, you end up in prison. I can do this all day long, right? And I don't get it. I'm not in it. I digress for now. When we come forward, we'll get Robert Greenwald's thoughts on that and talk more about his new documentary. It's called Trump's Crime Wave, put out by Brave New Films. All their work is free. I love that about his witness. More than Robert when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Helping to stretch your moral and political imagination. This is Tavis Smiley.
Paid for by government.com. Did you know the United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time? Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
Thank you for joining us, everyone. I'm Mike Moore. Now here's the latest from the Black Information Network. President Biden is speaking out after a deadly shooting in Georgia. A 14-year-old student entered a high school yesterday morning with an AR-15 style weapon, killing 2 students and 2 teachers and sending 9 others to the hospital. Donald Trump is making another attempt to delay the sentencing in his hush money trial. The former president was convicted on 34 counts of falsifying business records to hide hush money payments he made during the 2016 election. Buffalo Bills safety Damar Hamlin is going to be in the starting lineup for the team's season opener against the Arizona Cardinals. The African-American player hasn't started a game since he suffered cardiac arrest during a Monday Night Football game in January of last year. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
Bank of America has powerful digital solutions for local and global businesses, so you can make every move matter. Visit bankofamerica.com/banking for business to learn more. Bank of America, N.A., copyright 2024.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The LA Sparks took on the WNBA's hottest team last night, the Indiana Fever. Not a bad effort by the Sparks in front of a sellout crowd in Indianapolis. They lost by 7, but were victims of another outstanding performance by Caitlin Clark. Clark put up her second triple-double of the season with 24 points, 10 rebounds, and 10 assists. Clark is only the 5th player in WNBA history to have multiple triple-doubles in the same season. 5th straight win for Indiana. The Sparks are 7-26. The Angels pounded the Dodgers 10-1 in Anaheim. The Dodgers still lead San Diego by 4.5 in the NL West. The NFL regular season kicks off today. Baltimore at Kansas City. Lamar Jackson versus Patrick Mahomes, the top two players in the NFL. Both quarterbacks have won 2 MVP awards. A marquee attraction to open the season, 5:20 p.m. kickoff on NBC. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Helping to broaden your political and moral imagination with our 2024 climate justice campaign. We're KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Race, culture wars, political turf battles, criminal justice and injustice, the courts. These are the conversations you won't hear elsewhere. My guests are leading journalists, celebrities, and sports figures, elected leaders, and influencers. They aren't afraid to get into it and say the quiet part out loud. With Ariva Martin in real time, your commute just became the most engaging part of your day. Tune in weekdays from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. or find us on YouTube. Ariva Martin in real time, when you want it straight, no chaser.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
September 15th to 21st is Asthma Peak Week, with the highest concentration of asthma flare-ups and hospitalizations. To become a more active participant in your care, visit luma-edu.com. This message is brought to you by Amgen and AstraZeneca.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA, a national nonprofit, offers more than 1,000 free online resources for youth and high school sports coaches, parents, students, and administrators. Visit PCADevZone.org.
Tips to help improve your credit score in 2024. Establishing credit is an important key to achieving financial health, but building a credit history from scratch can feel challenging since you need credit to build credit. First, what does it mean to build credit? All consumers have a score between 300 and 850. You want your score to be as high as possible as lenders look at your credit score to make loan and credit decisions. A good credit score shows you have a track record of borrowing money responsibly. Remember, it's never too late to build or rebuild your credit. This segment is sponsored by J.P. Morgan Chase & Company.
The moment we've all been waiting for has finally arrived. On Tuesday, September 10th at 6 p.m. Pacific Time, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump will square off in their first ever presidential debate. KBLA Talk 1580 and the Empowerment Congress are hosting a viewing party, and we're inviting you to join us for an evening of civic engagement, great food, and good vibes. Our studio space is limited, but if you would like to join us, just go to our website at KBLA1580.com and register for your chance to watch this historic presidential debate with us. Years from now, we're all likely to remember exactly where we were when this pivotal moment in American politics unfolded. So, register for your chance to join us by going to KBLA1580.com right now. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black. Less monologue, more dialogue. Tavis Smiley continues right now.
It does indeed with Robert Greenwald, who is the founding president of Brave New Films. His new project is called Trump's Crime Wave, and it's worthy of your checking it out. Robert, so just remind the audience right quick of all the various ways that one can see the free work, these amazing documentaries discussing and tackling issues that other people will run away from. But your stuff is all free. I love that. How do people download? How do they get your stuff?
Any one of the social media channels, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram stories, TikTok, we are there with full films, short films, clips from films, and we have a very important outreach of screenings for churches, for faith communities, for colleges, for schools, community colleges. So we go where the audience is. And all of that, fortunately, continues to be free and inspires action, because we fail if someone sees a film, whether it's a 2-minute or a 2-hour film. If they see a film and don't do anything, I consider that a failure. They see a film, they write a letter, they contact an elected official, they have a screening. We give you a kit so you can screen it in your home or your school. And that's the lifeblood of what we do. We create the content and then we have distribution, but the distribution is free distribution.
Yeah. I'm thinking now about America and who we are and what we look like these days. Clearly a very divided nation, and a nation, to my mind, that isn't as interested in truth as it ought to be. These days, I think it is fair to say that for many of us, the truth is what each of us determines it to be, right? It's what we determine the truth to be. And I raise that to ask what you've discovered about the audience for the stuff you produce. I mean, you're tackling some really tough topics. You're telling some real uncomfortable truths. There's a particular audience in this country, there's that word again, audience, that would never want to see Trump's crime wave, those Trump sycophants. They ain't trying to see this. But what have you learned about the audience that does exist for the kind of progressive filmmaking that you do?
Well, actually, it's been quite inspiring in a very simple way. We don't have money for prints and advertising. So it's all word of mouth. We put a video up like Trump's racism yesterday. Josh put it up at 9 o'clock in the morning. This morning before I came here, he emailed me 520,000 views. That is our audience.
Overnight, yeah.
They're seeing it. And most importantly, they're then passing it on. You cannot force people to pass your material on unless they believe it's interesting, they've learned something, they want their family or friends to see it. That's the lifeblood of what we do. And every day we're being tested. Does the audience respond in alerting others? Here's this film you should see. Here's this video. Here's this action you can take using the film.
What's your benchmark for success? If you were an executive at Sony or Paramount, I would know the answer to this question already. Box office. What's your barometer of success when you put these films out like this new documentary, Trump's Crime Wave?
World peace.
Thank you, Miss America.
That's for starters.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah,
it's hard to know exactly, but it is impact. When we did the drones film, everyone was furious at us because it was critical of Obama. But it had its way. It worked, and ultimately there was a cover of Newsweek saying "Rethink Afghanistan," connected to the wars. So it's a little bit ephemeral, but we do measure ourselves on impact. Are we getting people to understand various levels and elements of Trump's distortions? And going back to what we were talking about before, are we helping them know it's a system and the system needs to be tackled? And that's so important, Tavis, because otherwise we tend to focus on one bad boss or one person you're mad at or somebody who did something irritating. But it's bigger and deeper and more complex than that. And that's where I feel enormous satisfaction and pride that we're able to do that work.
You run in your lane, I run in my lane, and this audience hears me say this all the time, that at my best, I hope that I am, again, unapologetically challenging folk to re-examine the assumptions they hold, helping them to expand their inventory of ideas and to see the world through a different prism. That's what I hope that I'm doing at my best. And yet I will confess to you that I wonder whether or not we have a demos that is truly interested in having its civic IQ raised. I'm not so sure that many of us are really interested in raising the level of our civic IQ, and yet I come in here every day and do what I do against all the odds. What say you about the civic IQ of the demos?
Well, first of all, I want to salute you for coming in every day and doing it against all the odds. It's a small club, and you're such an important part of that. Film's a little bit different, and one of the things I say over and over and over again, which is we can't do homework, or I don't want to do homework, and I don't want to do spinach. We have to make the stories the narratives interesting and engaging enough. And from that, hopefully, when we do well, and look, we make mistakes, we fail with projects. The only way to get better at your job is with failure.
That's right.
But we keep trying to do that in ways so people engage. And the audience tells us very quickly, whether it's the Koch brothers or it's abortion or whether it's Trump, they'll tell us quickly, yes, we've seen it and we believe it's important, so we're passing it on, we're hosting a screening, we're arranging to use it.
Is one of the goals to raise the civic IQ?
A non-stated goal.
Non-stated goal, yeah.
Because we can't, is what I'm saying before, it is to raise the civic IQ and it's to engage people more even than raising, which maybe is a little abstract. Engage, get involved, see something, and then do something.
I've said many times that this I regard this work every day as engage radio, not outrage radio. Engage, not outrage. That's my goal, at least. Although there are things that enrage me, and I make a distinction between being angry and having a righteous indignation. I sense sometimes that the episode of your work is a righteous indignation, which is different than anger, about the things that are tolerated in the world that we live. When we come forward, I want to get to that question that I promised I'd get to a moment ago, and that is this notion of all these persons, never mind how toxic, how dangerous, how much trouble you end up in, maybe sitting in a jail cell like Steve Bannon, people still want to be close to Donald Trump. They still want to be in his circle. No naivete here. I get that power is an aphrodisiac. People want that power. And yet, this new documentary that you've put out, Trump's Crime Wave, makes it abundantly clear what happens to you when you get in that circle. We'll talk about that part when we come forward. His name is Robert Greenwald, founding president of Brave New Films. The new one is called Trump's Crime Wave, and we're talking about it right now on Tavis Smiley.
From California to the Carolinas, everybody's listening to Tavis. More when we come forward.
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my side softer?
Can I make my side firmer whenever I want?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. 94% of Sleep Number smart sleepers report better sleep. And now, during our biggest sale of the year, save 50% on the Sleep Number limited edition smart bed. Plus free home delivery on select smart beds when you add any base. Ends Labor Day. To find a store near you, visit sleepnumber.com.
Mom, meet Sarah.
From first time Nana moments.
Yeah, welcome to Flight 101.
To annual girls trip moments. Your can't miss moments are worth protecting against RSV. If you're 75 or older or 60 plus with a chronic condition like asthma, COPD, heart disease, or severe diabetes, you're at higher risk of landing in the hospital from RSV. And there are no prescription RSV treatments. Check eligibility and schedule your RSV vaccine at vaxassist.com.
So where should we go next?
Sponsored by Pfizer.
Tavis Smiley's new book, The Covenant with Black America, 20 years later, is now on sale everywhere. This classic text shot to #1 on the New York Times bestsellers list almost 2 decades ago. If you have the original book, you will surely want to get this 20th anniversary edition with powerful new contributions from today's leading voices. This 20th anniversary edition presents a compelling blend of historical insights and contemporary urgency in this critical and unprecedented election year. Get your copy of The Covenant with Black America 20 years later today. More honesty than you can handle. More empowerment than you can imagine. You're tuned in to Tavis Smiley.
So Robert Greenwald, why would anybody who sees this new documentary, Trump's Crime Wave, want to be a part of his circle?
Well, I hope anybody who sees it won't want to be a part of his circle, but that's a low bar. I hope the bar is higher than that. I think the question that you've asked, which is a really interesting one, if one can be a little objective and not be furious, is that knowing it's a virtual guarantee that if you're in his orbit, even whether you're a family member, a staffer, a military person, he's going to turn on you. Mm-hmm. He's going to blame you.
At some point.
He's going to blame you. And is the pull, the attraction, is it greed? Is it ego? Is it opportunism? Is it some combination of all of that? Some of the people in his circle, even when he turns on them, manage to survive and get speaking gigs or professorships or think tanks, but many of them wind up with legal trouble, both locked up and paying huge financial prices. So I believe with time it will, and this film and others will help make the case. Stay away. This is a dangerous guy on every level.
Or at least enter at your own risk.
Yes, even better.
Yeah, I wonder whether or not you think that Trump's crime wave has done any irreparable damage to the presidency. Has he pushed the envelope so far off the table, down the hallway, out the door, and down the street, that we'll see other persons in years to come who encroach a bit more into things they shouldn't be in because, again, he has set the bar, to your point, so low? That makes sense?
Yes, it makes great sense, and I wish I knew the answer to that question. When we come back and have this conversation in 50 years from today.
You may have an answer? Yeah.
Yes. I think time will tell. I am even though I'm a New Yorker, I'm basically optimistic, thinking that the system, because I don't think it's just Trump, by the way. There's a system of conservatism, of right-wing wingnuts. There's a system of people who've been ostracized and feel they've been left behind. Part of that's our failure not to figure out how to speak to those people. But I think that those folks will hopefully maybe find different outlets for what some of them is genuine pain and despair.
I had a guest on earlier today in the first hour, and I'm still noodling on it. Here we are, hours later. Still noodling on this notion that there are no red states. He said that, and I kind of paused. What do you mean? There are no red states. And he unpacked it. There are states that have been ignored, that have been, taken for granted, that have been under-resourced, and that's how they became red states. It was a powerful point made to me some time ago, and I'm still wrestling with it even all this time later. What I'm laughing at, though, internally, is your statement a moment ago that I'm a New Yorker, but I'm still optimistic. I don't know. Did I take that the right way? That New Yorkers can't be optimistic?
There is a small percentage. If you go out on the streets of New York, those who don't knock you over when they're rushing to get to wherever they're going.
That was the funniest thing I've heard all day. I asked that because we're being heard. We're being heard right now in New York.
Good.
So when you said I'm a New Yorker, but I'm basically optimistic, I'm like, okay, I heard that. I didn't miss that. Our many moments with Robert Greenwald, the founder and president of Brave New Films. The new documentary is called Trump's Crime Wave. I'm glad to have him here on Tavis Smiley.
This is getting good. Yeah, man. Tavis Smiley continues when we come forward.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
You know where you want to go in life, and City National Bank can help. City National knows the dedication it takes to build your vision for the future into a reality, and our team is here for you. We have a wide range of options to help, from personal savings accounts to interest-bearing money market savings accounts and more, all designed to help you get where you want to go. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Learn more at cnb.com. City National Bank is a subsidiary of Royal Bank of Canada, member FDIC.
Watch out! You got me!
The galaxy is safe once again.
In the pretend universe, kids play with pretend guns. In the real world, it's up to us to make sure they don't get their hands on a real gun. If you have a gun in the house, keep it locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Stay Housed LA has the resources you need to know your rights and the legal support to back them up. The COVID-19 pandemic has cost people their jobs and livelihoods. This has left an estimated 1/3 of households not being able to make rent and facing losing their homes. This is a fear no one in our community should have to face. You have rights, though, and Stay Housed LA is here to help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between the County of Los Angeles, the City of Los Angeles, and local community and legal service providers. Together, they provide tenants with the information and support needed to exercise their rights so they can remain safely in their homes. Find out more about your rights by participating in a virtual tenant workshop. Get the legal assistance you need. Find additional resources in Los Angeles County and the City of Los Angeles. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA County for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. That's stayhousedla.org. Or call their hotline at 213-694-0040. We've got your black with a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Robert Greenwald, at least for the next 4 minutes before I wrap today's program. Glad to have Robert in studio for this conversation. What's your takeaway? I want to talk about two things. Let me go to your racism film. You mentioned it a few times in this conversation. Tell me a bit more about that and what you hope to engender, or what's the goal for putting out a film about Trump's racism?
It's very specific, which is there is the disgusting name calling that he does, which is clearly racist. But as one of my colleagues said, that's not enough. Mm-hmm. It's the racist name calling that is connected to the policies that are hurting people. And the policies around, I said before, but it's the policies around jobs, housing, these hundreds of bad right-wing extremist judges, African Americans not being able to get PPP loans, Trump opposing raising the minimum wage, which would have been a big positive for a significant percentage of people, African Americans, who were on minimum wage. So it's incident after incident. And what we do in the film, and people go to any social media, they can see it, that it shows you there's a connection. There's a connection between his words. You can't just write it off and say he's a loudmouth, disgusting racism. It's more than that. He is, and people around him who aren't in jail have been doing policies, legislation, appointments that affect people's lives in profound ways. If you can't get a job, if you can't get housing, if you can't get a loan because of the color of your skin, as part of that, that affects you deeply. And he sadly has been leading the charge on that.
After what you've documented quite brilliantly, I might add, in Trump's Crime Wave, your new piece, if come November 5, this country were to re-elect Donald Trump, after all that you've made abundantly clear about his connection directly to, indirectly to, his personal criminal conduct, the criminal conduct of all those around him. If this country were to somehow re-elect him on November the 5th, what would that say? How would you process that?
Well, first I'd throw myself under a bus. And then once the bus ran me over and
you got up.
And I got up again, it would say, it would be sad. It would be profoundly sad and infuriating, and a call to further action. That I used to be much more of a non-electoral person.
Sure.
Dr. King, the women's movement, the peace movement, none of those waited for the right candidate. That's where my heart and soul was. Trump's turned all of us into electoral people.
Sure.
But it will be a reaffirmation and a reminder that this is not a short-term problem. It's a long-term problem.
Well, we shall see what happens on November 5, but I have seen no documentary that makes it abundantly clear, so transparently clear, what his crime wave has been, the damage done by that crime wave, the impact of it, and how anybody who behaves in this way ought to be stopped. That's just me. But the documentary, once again, is called Trump's Crime Wave. It's produced by Brave New Films. The founding president of Brave New Films is Robert Greenwald, who I've been honored to have had in this program, in this hour, in this studio. Good to see you, my friend. Congrats on the work once again.
Thank you so much. Good to be with you, and keep up the fight. See you at the barricades.
And likewise. Just like that, 3 hours gone, back here tomorrow. No, tomorrow's Friday, so tomorrow's the best of Tavis Smiley. We'll pull 3 great hours from this week that you might have missed and reprise them for you tomorrow, so don't miss the best of Tavis Smiley tomorrow. Until then, thanks for tuning in to this program, and as always, keep the faith.